The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. Deepak Chopra. What if I told you that what you call success might be quietly pulling you away from who you truly are? That the harder you chase results, the farther you drift from your own peace? That sounds strange because we were trained to believe that constant effort is a virtue, that rest is delay, and that stopping is failure. But no one told you the invisible cost of this race. Perhaps the greatest mistake of our generation is not a lack of ambition, but misdirected ambition. We learn to conquer the world before we learn to inhabit ourselves. We learn to produce before we learn to feel, to win before we learn to understand. And then, when we finally arrive, we discover a void that no amount of money can fill. That is not ingratitude. It is a call from consciousness. Deepak Chopra challenges this logic by affirming that true success is born from the inside out. That abundance does not begin in the wallet, but in perception. That living aligned with spiritual laws does not remove you from reality. It returns you to it with greater clarity, presence, and meaning. Here, practical spirituality is not an escape, it is lucidity applied to real life. In this video, I don't want to teach you how to do more. I want to invite you to be different while you do. To access a kind of conscious success that does not exhaust you, harden you, or disconnect you from your life purpose. A success that respects your cycles, your essence, and your inner truth. If there is a quiet feeling within you that life can be lighter, more coherent, and more authentic, stay with me. Because understanding these laws doesn't just change your external results. It changes the inner place from which you decide, choose, act, and build everything. What we call success, and the emptiness it often leaves behind. It took me a long time to realize that what I called success didn't actually bring me peace. On the outside, everything seemed right. Goals achieved, recognition, the feeling of moving forward. But on the inside, there was a constant noise, a soul-level exhaustion that was hard to explain. That's when I began to question this automatic model of victory that the world sells us. And it was at that point that spiritual philosophy started calling me back home, back to the center of my own inner balance. When I first came into contact with the spiritual laws taught by Deepak Chopra, something clicked in an almost uncomfortable way. He didn't speak of success as accumulation, but as alignment. It wasn't about getting further ahead, but about being whole where you are. This vision of conscious success shook me, because it revealed a paradox. Many people achieve external dreams while abandoning their life purpose along the way. Maybe you've felt this too. That quiet thought at the end of the day. Is that all there is? This emptiness is not failure. It's a sign of awakening consciousness. Practical spirituality invites us to observe that spiritual prosperity is not measured only by results, but by the quality of presence with which we live each choice. And when full awareness begins to emerge, we start to see that true success cannot be separated from self-knowledge. I remember a phase when I searched for answers in productivity, business books, and aggressive goals. They helped, of course, but something was missing. That's when I began to balance them with readings like The Power of Now, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, and even Think and Grow Rich, realizing that all of them pointed, in different ways, to the same place. The mind creates, but it is the inner state that sustains. And perhaps the most honest question here is not, how do I become successful? But, from where am I living? Because before any external achievement, there is a silent field within us, a pure potentiality waiting to be accessed. And it is exactly in this invisible, almost forgotten space that everything truly begins to move. Pure potentiality. The silence that creates everything. There is a place within us that makes no effort at all, and yet is capable of creating everything. When Deepak Chopra speaks of pure potentiality, he is not referring to something distant or overly mystical, but to this state of full awareness where the mind quiets down and life begins to flow. I realized this when I stopped, for the first time, trying to solve everything with my thoughts and simply began to be present. At first, I admit, the silence made me uncomfortable. Sitting in silence for 5 minutes felt like a waste of time in a world that values constant productivity. But it was there that I understood that true personal growth begins when we slow down. Practical spirituality teaches that within apparent emptiness, there is creative abundance waiting for space to manifest. One simple practice that changed my relationship with life was starting the day without my phone, just observing my breath. 3 minutes. No complicated mantra, just presence. This creates an inner state where the ego steps back a little and life's intelligence takes the lead. In this state, decisions become clearer, and conscious success stops being a race and becomes alignment. It's fascinating to notice that the more we connect with this silent field, the less we need to force results. Ideas arise out of nowhere, the right encounters happen, opportunities appear without struggle. This isn't luck, it's consciousness in action. Spiritual philosophy has known this for centuries, long before neuroscience began studying the effects of mindfulness on the brain. And most interesting of all is that when we access this pure potentiality, we begin to realize that our choices no longer come from anxiety, but from clarity. It's as if something inside gently says, "This way," and this silent voice prepares us, little by little, to understand that creating the life we desire involves something beyond control. It involves intention. Giving and receiving. Why abundance begins with flow. For a long time, I believed that abundance was something to be achieved through accumulation. More money, more recognition, more control. But the more I tried to hold on, the more life seemed to stall. It was by studying the spiritual laws, especially this one that Deepak Chopra explains with such simplicity, that I realized, life works through flow. Whatever stops, decays. Whatever circulates, renews itself. The law of giving and receiving is not only about money, and that changes everything. It speaks of energy, attention, listening, presence. How many times have you entered a conversation just waiting for your turn to speak? When I began to truly listen, without hurry, I noticed that something returned in unexpected ways. Relationships deepened, opportunities appeared, and spiritual prosperity began to make practical sense. A simple example, I started sharing knowledge without fear of losing value. I recommended books like The 4 Agreements, The Alchemist, and The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success itself to people who might never give anything back to me. And, curiously, it was through this movement that doors opened. Giving does not impoverish, it aligns. And when the intention is clean, the return comes, even if not in the form we expect. This law also invites us to observe how we receive. Many people block abundance because they don't feel worthy of it. I've done this many times, refusing help out of pride disguised as independence. Receiving with gratitude is also an act of full awareness. It is recognizing that life is a constant exchange and that no one grows alone. When giving and receiving come into balance, something shifts internally. Anxiety decreases, trust increases, and conscious success ceases to be a competition. We begin to realize that every energetic choice shapes not only external results, but the very path we are walking, a path that inevitably leads us to reflect on responsibility and karma. Karma, invisible choices that shape destiny. For a long time, the word karma sounded to me like punishment, almost a spiritual sentence. But as I began to look at it with more maturity, I realized that karma is actually an invitation to lucidity. Deepak Chopra explains this clearly. Every action generates a consequence, and this applies not only to what we do, but to what we think, feel, and even leave undone. Nothing is neutral in the construction of our path. I began to notice my own karma in the small details of everyday life, the way I responded when I was tired, the decisions made on impulse, the yes said out of fear, and the no's swallowed for the sake of convenience. All of this was shaping my life experience. Self-knowledge reveals to us that destiny is not something that happens to us, but something we build, choice by choice. A simple exercise I recommend is to observe your decisions for 1 week. Before acting, silently ask, does this come from fear or from awareness? It may seem trivial, but this pause changes everything. Practical spirituality does not require isolation or complex rituals, only presence. And the more conscious the choice, the lighter its effect becomes down the road. I also had to learn not to outsource responsibility. Blaming people, systems, or circumstances is comfortable, but it keeps us stuck. When I accepted that my choices created my results, something inside me was set free. The law of karma does not judge. It teaches. It gives back to us exactly what we need to learn in order to grow in inner balance. And most interesting of all is that when we begin to act with clear intention, karma stops being a burden and becomes an ally. Actions begin to generate peace, coherence, and conscious growth. It's as if life starts to cooperate. But this cooperation can only be sustained when we learn to align our choices with something greater, with what we truly wish to create. Intention and desire. When the ego steps aside, there is a subtle yet profound difference between wanting and needing. It took me time to understand this. For years, my desires were charged with anxiety, comparison, and the fear of falling behind. When I encountered Deepak Chopra's perspective on intention and desire, I realized that many of my goals did not arise from the heart, but from the ego trying to prove something. And that completely changes the outcome. True intention is born from a state of full awareness. It does not demand, pressure, or beg. It simply points in a direction and trusts. One practice I began was writing down my desires and, beside each one, asking, does this expand or contract my inner balance? When the answer came as a feeling of lightness, I knew there was alignment with my life purpose. In practical terms, this means letting go of control over the how. I once desired financial prosperity and ended up finding meaning in helping people, teaching, and creating. Abundance arrived, but through paths I never would have planned. This is a central point of practical spirituality. Life responds better when we give clarity to intention and freedom to form. A simple tip is to begin the day by setting an intention, not a goal. Something like, today I choose to act with presence, or today I choose to serve with authenticity. This shifts the energetic field of our actions. Conscious success stops being something distant and becomes a daily experience, built through small gestures. When desire is aligned with something greater than the ego, it gains strength without creating tension. And the less resistance we place, the more life cooperates. But this cooperation requires something we are not always ready to offer: the ability to let go. Detachment, trusting without controlling. Detachment was, without a doubt, one of the most difficult teachings for me. The idea of releasing outcomes initially felt like giving up. But Deepak Chopra makes it clear that detachment is not indifference, it is trust. It is doing your part with presence and allowing life to complete the rest. When I understood this, a great deal of inner tension began to dissolve. I realized how much I tried to control people, situations, and even the timing of things. And the more I tried to hold on, the more life resisted. Detachment invites us to act without attachment to outcomes, understanding that the universe has an intelligence greater than our anxiety. This is practical spirituality applied to everyday life, not distant philosophy. A powerful exercise is to observe where you suffer the most. Usually, that is where attachment exists. It might be a relationship, a financial result, or an expectation of recognition. When I began to ask, who would I be without this control? Something opened within me. Detachment takes nothing away. It gives back freedom and inner balance. In my professional life, for example, I began to give my best without defining myself by immediate returns. Curiously, this increased both my spiritual and material prosperity. Conscious success emerges when we trust the process more than the applause. Books like The Courage to Be Disliked and The Tao of Physics helped me greatly to understand this logic of flow. And the more we let go, the more space we create for the unexpected. Detachment prepares the ground for what the rational mind cannot predict. And it is precisely when we stop forcing that we realize, life follows a path of least resistance, a path of minimum effort. Minimum effort, the natural path of life. There is a quiet wisdom in nature that we rarely imitate. Trees do not struggle to grow, rivers do not fight to reach the sea. They simply flow. When Deepak Chopra speaks of the law of least effort, he invites us to observe this natural movement and realize how much energy we waste resisting life. I myself confused effort with worthiness for a long time. Minimum effort does not mean passivity, and that is important to clarify. It means acting from alignment, not from tension. When I began to accept people and situations as they are, without fighting reality, something shifted. Acceptance does not paralyze, it frees energy for more intelligent action. This is one of the secrets of inner balance and conscious growth. A practical example: instead of spending hours complaining about something beyond your control, direct that energy toward a small, possible action, a honest conversation, a course correction, a new learning. Books like Tao Te Ching and The Artist's Way are especially helpful in understanding this principle of flow applied to everyday life. I also noticed that the more I judged, the more exhausted I became. Judgment creates resistance. Acceptance creates movement. This applies both to the world and to ourselves. When I stopped punishing myself for past mistakes, my productivity increased, and so did my peace. Spiritual philosophy has always taught that life cooperates when we stop fighting it. And it is in this state of flow that everything begins to fall into place with less emotional wear and tear. The feeling is one of being guided, not pushed. But this natural path only fully reveals itself when we understand our true place in the world, what we call dharma. Dharma, success born from service. For a long time, I associated success with individual achievement. It was about getting there, winning, standing out. But when I encountered the concept of dharma, something shifted. Dharma is not a profession, status, or title. It is the meeting point between what you love to do, what you do well, and what the world needs. When these three align, success stops feeling heavy. Deepak Chopra speaks of dharma as a silent calling, not an obligation. I began to recognize it in activities that made me lose track of time, those moments when the mind quiets and the heart leads. When we follow this flow, personal growth happens almost effortlessly, because we are acting from our essence, not from external expectations. A simple practice is to list your natural talents and ask, how can this serve someone today? It might be listening more deeply, teaching something, creating, or caring. When I began to see my work as service, my spiritual prosperity grew. Curiously, material abundance followed as well. As a consequence, not an obsessive goal. Living your dharma requires courage, because it often pulls us away from the safe path. But safety without meaning comes at a high cost. Books like The Talent Code and The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari help illustrate how leadership and purpose can walk together, not by romanticizing life, but by bringing awareness to our choices. When we begin to live aligned with our dharma, conscious success stops being a pursuit and becomes a natural reflection of who we are. And at that point, something curious happens. All the spiritual laws begin to operate together, as if life were tuning itself in harmony with us. Integrating the laws. Living in a state of alignment. After understanding each spiritual law individually, there comes a moment when everything begins to integrate. I realized that it's not about applying one law at a time like a manual, but about living from an inner state of alignment. When consciousness shifts, behavior changes naturally. And when that happens, life begins to respond differently. Integrating the spiritual laws means bringing practical spirituality into simple decisions. How you wake up, how you respond to a challenge, how you choose to react to frustration. Pure potentiality is in silence, karma in choices, detachment in trust, dharma in service. All of this coexisting within the same day, the same routine, the same body. I began creating small conscious rituals. Nothing rigid. 5 minutes of silence in the morning, a clear intention before starting work, a pause before responding to something difficult. These simple gestures create a solid foundation of inner balance. Conscious success is born from this coherence between thought, emotion, and action. I also learned that alignment doesn't mean getting it right all the time. It means noticing quickly when you're out of alignment. When you know yourself, you don't stay lost for long. Self-knowledge shortens suffering. Spiritual philosophy teaches us that making mistakes is part of the path, but remaining unconscious is optional. When the laws begin to operate together, life no longer feels fragmented. Work, relationships, and purpose connect. There's a sense of being in the right place, even amid challenges. And it is in this state of alignment that stories of real transformation begin to emerge. Stories that show how all of this takes shape in the life of an ordinary person. A story of transformation, when everything begins to make sense. I want to tell you a simple but deeply real story, the story of someone who could be me, or you. This person pursued success intensely, studied, worked hard, did everything right. And still, they felt an invisible exhaustion, as if they were always chasing something that never arrived. Until the day they stopped, not out of giving up, but out of exhaustion, and in that forced silence, something began to reveal itself. They started small. 5 minutes of silence a day, a clear intention upon waking, less control over outcomes. Gradually, they noticed that life responded differently. The right people appeared, decisions became clearer, fear diminished. It wasn't magic. It was alignment. Pure potentiality made space. Karma began to reorganize itself, detachment brought lightness, and dharma started guiding choices that had previously been made on autopilot. This person understood that conscious success is not the absence of problems, but presence in the face of them. That abundance is not only money, but the feeling that life makes sense. That spiritual prosperity is waking up at peace with who you are, even as you continue to grow. The spiritual laws stopped being concepts and became daily practice, integrated into the way of thinking, feeling, and acting. Now, let me ask you, honestly, where are you trying to control too much? Which of your desires comes from fear rather than intention? What would you do differently if you trusted life a little more and anxiety a little less? These questions don't demand answers right now. They require presence. If something shared here touched you, don't ignore it. Inner transformation begins with small, conscious movements. Take this content into your life. Test it, observe it, feel it. And if you want to keep walking in this space of reflection, practical spirituality, and conscious growth, subscribe to Conscious Soul and turn on notifications. Here, we don't chase success. We align with it.